Recording has started. Okay. Let everyone know they're being recorded. You're being recorded. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is our transition programme overview, and the purpose of the meeting this evening is just to give you an overview of what has already been shared and just go over that in a little bit more detail, but also to do some introductions so that you can put a face to the name of the key people involved in your young person's transition from primary school to the Royal High School. I'm going to do the introductions first, and then we'll move on to some of the detail. You should have received this already. If you haven't, please contact your primary school office and they'll be able to share that with you. So the key people on the call this evening are Mrs. Walker as head teacher, Mrs. Patterson, the transition teacher, and myself, Nicola Casey, as acting deputy head. And I think they're going to say a quick hello to you.
Hi everybody, I'm Pauline Walker, the head teacher at the Royal High School, and I'm really pleased to be welcoming you all for our 2024 first year intake. It's a really exciting time for you, but it's also a really exciting time for us, and we can't wait to meet your young people and begin working with them. So the purpose of these sessions is to really help with any anxieties or questions you may have, and we of course have further sessions later in the year, both online and in person, so you can continue to ask questions, hear information, and make sure that everything is as you need, ready to start in August. Just to flag to you that the council handbook is not quite out yet. However, our transition handbook from last year is on our website, and the school information will not change much from what's there. So if you do want to have a look at what's our uniform and what's our times a day and so on and so forth, that is all on there. So please feel free to visit our website for lots of the common information that you might need. So thanks very much for coming along. Really pleased to see you here and looking forward to working with you all for the future.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. And I'm just going to ask Mrs. Patterson to say a quick hello.
Good evening, I'm Laura Patterson. I'm the transition teacher for the Royal High School. So I have been working with your children in the primary 7 classes, and I'll be helping them with that transition from primary 7 over into S1, just making sure that transfer of information goes over, staff are aware, and also just helping your young people to settle and being that familiar face for when they're coming over on the other side. I'll be involved in a lot of the key transition events, such as the transition days, our Positive Start programme, and also moving over into our Positive Start on the other side of the summer holidays that some of our young people might be involved in. So as I say, a lot of young people get to know me and I get to know them. So it's just helping with that continuity in that transition period.
Thanks, Mrs. Patterson. And as I said, I'm acting deputy head, so I'm overseeing the whole process. But Mrs. Patterson is actively in the primary schools very regularly, getting to know the young people, and then I look forward to meeting them when they come up to the high school as well. So on with the timeline. We first of all have our buddy visits, and I'm really pleased to say that the first one took place today at Blackhall Primary School, but you can see the dates on the screen there. There's one coming up next in Clarmiston next week, Davison's Mains, and then Cramond Primary School. So each of the feeder primary schools will have the buddies coming out to visit them, and the purpose of that is for our buddies to meet the young people, to answer any questions that they might have, remembering back to when they were starting in first year and the things that they might have been worried about or had questions about, and just being that point of contact. These buddies will be going on to be the buddies that show some of the groups round when they come into high school for both their 3-day visit, but also when they come in August for real. So you've got the dates there, and hopefully your young people will start coming home telling you stories about what their buddy has said. As Mrs. Walker said, you can find out more information about this, but also information about transition, details that we're giving the young people. We'll very soon be starting Transition Tuesdays, where I have a Teams call with all of the classes in the feeder primary schools, and you can see this information on our school website. So if you have a look at the information section, and then transition information, you should be able to find it there. There's a wealth of information on the website, as Mrs. Walker had mentioned at the beginning of our call today, and it's really important that you have a look there. It's updated daily, so it should be accurate, and as I say, there's loads of detail there, and it gives you a real sense of what to expect from the school as well.
Can I just come in there as well, Mrs. Casey?
Of course.
Those transition newsletters will be on your child's, there's a transition channel in their Teams page, so it'll be added onto them as and when we do them. So you'll be able to kind of keep track of them there as well.
Perfect, thank you. The transition Tuesdays will be culminating in a health and wellbeing day as well, and on Friday the 15th of March we'll have a rugby event at the Royal High School with the P7 classes from their feeder primary schools, and the purpose of that is so that they can meet one another, they can start to make friends. It's also led by Mr. Townsend, who's the curricular leader of PE, and Mr. Kelly, who is our rugby coach. So it's a really good opportunity to meet some staff as well. As we move on, Easter to June, this is focusing on the physical visits to the school, and these tend to happen on Fridays. And there's two real purposes to that. Obviously for the young people to come into the school, and they are coming with their P7 teacher. That the dates are on the board there. So Davison's Mains is first, followed by Clarmiston, then Cramond, and then Blackhall. And the dual aspect to that is so that the young people can be in the school, but it also gives an opportunity for the guidance team to meet with the P7 teachers. So behind the scenes, Mrs. Patterson has been doing lots of gathering of information about young people, making sure that we have all the information we need to best support them and to make it as seamless and as smooth a transition as possible. But the opportunity for the guidance team to meet with the P7 teachers means that lots of that other detail that we can share, that kind of softer information about what somebody might prefer, or how just a comment or something might put them at ease, that's the kind of information that we can take from the P7 teachers, and that's often really helpful as well. We also have the Positive Start programme, and these are specifically targeting pupils who may be anxious or where there may be a really specific barrier that the primary 7 teachers have identified for them. And that might mean that the process is just that little bit more difficult. So this is an additional programme. In addition to the transition programme that everybody else is following, they will have some extra visits. So they visit us each Wednesday morning in May, and they're following a tailor-made timetable. And the purpose of that is to give them some experience of being in parts of the school that they might not have seen on a more general visit. This is followed up with some outdoor education work by some of our youth work partners, and that's taking place in the summer term. There's also the 3-day visit, which is the main focus of excitement, some nerves, probably some from parents and carers as well, but it's a really exciting event, and it's something that the staff here really look forward to in terms of meeting our classes for the first time and getting to see the pupils. So at this point, the pupils will be allocated into their new form classes. We have taken a lot of detail from the P7 teachers about who the best learning partners are and how they will best work together. So really gathering that information, and it's reflective of the advice that these P7 teachers have given us. They follow their actual timetable. So for the 3 days when they're in school, when they come back in August, that will be the timetable that they will have. And the buddies that have been out to primary schools before the summer in S5 will have moved on to S6. So they are becoming the S6 helpers, but it's the same individuals. And what we try to do is match them up with a class, often in the same nation, and I'll come on to that in a few minutes. But the purpose of that is they get to know that buddy, and then that buddy supports them again when they come back to school in August. We recognise that the summer holidays is quite a long gap of time away from school, and they may have forgotten or not actually been to some parts of the school. So the buddies are there to help them find their bearings, meet them at breaks and lunch times, just making sure that they feel really reassured and there's somebody that's approachable to ask if they need anything. We're coming on to class lists, and I think Mrs. Patterson was just going to say a few words about that.
Yeah, so class lists, I know this can be quite a source of anxiety for both young people and their parents, but it's just to try and reassure you that a lot of thought goes into how we put these together. This is a process that actually starts in March. So once we receive the bulk of the information back from the primary schools, the teachers, the primary 7 teachers know your young people best, and what they do is they make recommendations based on the learning partners, so the people that your children work best with. So we look at that information plus a whole other variety of information when we're putting our class lists together. We do have to, there's other factors that we need to take into consideration, such as gender, making sure that there's a spread of all the schools across the classes. It may be that we also think about older siblings and what nation they may be in. That's not an absolute deciding factor, but it's something that we also take into consideration. So there's quite a few factors that we think about. And as I say, it's a process. So we go back and forward quite a lot between ourselves and the primary 7 teachers to make sure that we are getting this right for our young people. So that will start in March, and it can, usually takes place. Most of the time we have the classes sorted by June before the transition days come up. Sometimes there might need to be some tweaks, but as I say, it is a process that we work through very closely with our P7 teachers.
Thank you very much. And moving towards the end of our presentation, just focusing on out of catchment schools, we do recognise that some of the pupils joining us from out of catchment schools may be joining us not knowing anybody, and it's really important that we get to know those young people and that they recognise a familiar face, Mrs. Patterson, but also myself. They have some separate visits, so the weeks of the 15th and the 22nd of April. And then the opportunities for the pupils to visit the school and meet others on Friday, the 14th of June. That's an optional visit, but that's offered in case anybody would like that opportunity. So we think that's really important as well. So I hope that helps give an overview of everything that happens in the transition process. As I said, that has been shared as a newsletter already. So if you've misplaced that or feel that you didn't receive that, please check with your primary school office, and they should be able to share that with you. We will also be having a meeting with our primary representatives. So parents from each of the feeder primary schools will be meeting as a group very soon. And the purpose of that is for them to gather questions from you. So please do ask who your rep is if you're not sure. And if there's any questions that you're asking, no question is a silly question. If you are thinking it, somebody else will be too. So please do ask. And if that helps set any minds at rest, then that's well worthwhile us doing that. And this is obviously a useful exercise to get a feel about what you think about the transition process as well. Any suggestions, any comments, we welcome them all. I'm just looking at a few questions that are coming in. So there were some questions about the class sizes, first of all. The class sizes are in practical sets of 20. As the pupils move up the school, when they're in S3, 4, 5 and 6, they're in class sizes of 30, and there are class sizes of 33 in first and second year. There's another question there about the increasing number of pupils and the large year groups. The class sizes won't be affected by that. So whilst we are a large school and we will be full at nearing 1,500 pupils, the class sizes don't change, and that's a statutory measure across Scotland. There's a question there about, and I think Mrs. Patterson's touched on it already, about nations. And someone's asking, what is a nation? So nations are essentially our house structure. So we have 5 different nations or houses. We have the Angles, the Britons, the Gaels, the Picts and the Scots. And because we are a very old school with a long history, and we're almost 900 years old, and I believe we're the 13th oldest school in the world, which is quite exciting. We have created the nation system some time ago, almost 100 years ago, in fact, when it became a sporting exercise and a sporting competition to win a prestigious Crichton Cup, which is a silver. Looks a bit like a salad bowl, but it causes great excitement. It's no longer a sporting competition. It encompasses a wide range of activities. And what we hope is that every young person can feel that they're involved in that, and that they're working together in their teams to try and achieve this prize. Mrs. Patterson did touch on the fact that the nation is not necessarily the deciding factor for which nation your P7 child will be in. Sometimes it's possible to keep families together with the same nation, and what that means is usually the same guidance teacher, but actually we're looking at individual needs, and if they're a better place in a different nation, then we would always accommodate that. There's some questions coming through about uniform. So our uniform, there are details on the website. It's more relaxed than it has been. Often a hoodie is acceptable, but absolutely something with the school logo on. Some pupils choose to wear a shirt and tie. We have these for sale, and Stevenson's uniform shop is the place where you can contact to order any of the uniform items. We recognise that obviously pupils should be wearing black, and that sometimes it's difficult to get black leggings or tracksuit bottoms which are completely plain. So Mrs. Walker has agreed that if a logo or any kind of symbol on there can be covered with a thumb, that's acceptable. It means that it's very small. But all pupils should have something identifying the Royal High School on it. On days where the pupils have PE, it's absolutely fine for them to come into school wearing their PE kit. These items should be black and white. We have a PE t-shirt, we have PE shorts. So these items can be purchased either from the office, but mainly from Stevenson's. The changing rooms in PE are usually really reserved for those that are doing swimming. And I think that might be just about all our questions. Mrs. Patterson, I don't know if you can see any others.
There was just one more about lunch, about if lunch is provided at the school, and we do have a school canteen, which is known as the Grubby, not because it's dirty, just where you get your grub. Pupils will be provided with a PIN number because it's a cashless system, and that PIN number is linked to your parent pay account. So we hope to have these ready for the 3-day transition visit in June. If they're not ready by then, they will be ready by August for your young people. If they're not ready by June, we'll give you more details about how the pupils can purchase lunch from the Grubby during those 3 transition days. But yes, it's a PIN number that's used in the school.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think that's just about all the questions. Just as a reminder, if you have any specific questions about your child, they should be directed to your primary 7 teacher in the first instance. We'll be sending out a copy of this recording, this session, to your primary school office, and there will be further opportunity for you to ask any questions, probably in the shape of a Microsoft form, so that you feel that you have a way of getting in touch with us. And there will be further meetings like this so that you feel that you are clear on what's happening and when. But please don't hesitate to get in touch with your primary 7 teacher in the first instance, but also via the Microsoft form when you get that. Thank you very much for coming along this evening. It's been really lovely for us to talk to you, and I hope you found that useful.